The exponential tech gives us a novel problem landscape. Our existing problem-solving processes aren't doing a good job. We have had more countries get nukes. We haven't done nuclear deproliferation. We haven't achieved any of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We haven't kept any of the new categories of tech from making arms races. So our global coordination is not adequate to the problem landscape. So we need fundamentally better problem-solving processes. A market or a state is a problem-solving process. We need better ones that can do the speed and scale of the current issues. Right now, speed is one of the other big things, is that by the time we regulated DDT out of existence, or cigarettes not for people under 18, they'd already killed so many people, and we let the market do the thing. But as Elon has made the point, that won't work for AI. By the time we recognize afterwards that we have an autopoetic AI that's a problem, you won't be able to reverse it. That there's a number of things that when you're dealing with tech that is either self-replicating and disintermediates humans to keep going, doesn't need humans to keep going, or you have tech that just has exponentially fast effects, your regulation has to come early. It can't come after the effects have happened. The negative effects have happened because the negative effects could be too big too quickly. So we basically need new problem-solving processes that do better at being able to internalize externality, solve the problems on the right time scale and the right geographic scale. And those new processes, to not be imposed, have to emerge from people wanting them and being able to participate in their development, which is what I would call kind of a new cultural enlightenment or renaissance that has to happen, where people start understanding the new power that exponential tech offers, the way that it is actually damaging current governance structures that we care about and creating an X-risk landscape, but could also be redirected towards more protopic purposes. And then saying, how do we rebuild new social institutions? What are adequate social institutions where we can do participatory governance at scale and time? And how can the people actually participate to build those things? The solution that I see working requires a process like that.
Hi, my name is Sam Scheikowitz, and I'm the founder of Forby.org. In this video, I'll be discussing how a liquid democracy system could help governments manage issues like how term limits and party politics make democratic governments unable to do long-term planning, or manage emerging, fast-moving crises like artificial intelligence, arms races, genetic modification, and environmental collapse. So in this video, I'm distilling content from a 3-hour-long YouTube conversation between Lex Fridman and Daniel Smachtenberger. And Daniel Smachtenberger is one of my favorite thinkers. He's concerned about the existential risks we face at this time. Now, Lex Fridman is an engineer, and he's the host of his podcast with 1.6 million subscribers. And because I'm building Forby.org, which is a liquid democracy platform, I'm adding my own commentary as a way for you to understand how Forby is addressing these issues, my understanding, my thinking, and my motivations, and also to invite your input around these topics. So I've done a similar process of distilling Daniel Smachtenberger's thinking around some other topics. And I'll add some links there for you in case you're interested. If you agree or disagree with any of the ideas in this video or have ideas of your own to share, just please let me know in the comments, and I read all the comments. Okay, let's get started.
I think we can look at civilizations failing on the side of not having enough coordination of choice making, so they fail on the side of chaos, and then they cleave and an internal war comes about or whatever. Or they can't make smart decisions and they overuse their resources or whatever. Or it can fail on the side of trying to get order via imposition, via force, and so it fails on the side of oppression, which ends up being, for a while, functional-ish for the thing as a whole, but miserable for most people in it until it fails, either because of revolt or because it can't innovate enough or something like that. And so there's this like toggling between order via oppression and chaos.
So the goal is to create a system that does long-term planning without the negative effects of a monarch or dictator, like a platform where people can make decisions, the coordination of the choice making, where emerges some kind of order, and then does that so dynamically, constantly changing based on the needs of the people, sort of always evolving. Isn't that the way we achieve an emergent system of governance?
Yes, but I wouldn't say we're on track. And so I'm interested in the application of exponential tech to making better social tech that makes emergent order possible. And where then that emergent order can bind and direct the exponential tech in fundamentally healthy, not X-risk oriented directions. I think the relationship of social tech and physical tech can make it. I think we can actually use the physical tech to make better social tech, but it's not given that we do. If we don't make better social tech, then I think the physical tech empowers really shitty social tech that is not a world that we want.
So Daniel and Lex are discussing a platform that could allow for an emerging order that's not chaos and infighting and an inability to coordinate on one side. And it's not an imposed authoritarian top-down order on the other. So an ideal system would allow for a real-time development and management of ideas and a collaborative decision-making that could work even from the personal and all the way up to the world. And this is exactly what we're building with Forby. We're creating a more universal planning system, and we're trying to match natural decision-making processes that are used by neurons in our own brain, used by human beings as we go about our day making decisions, and that are also used by groups. So first I want to explain how Forby is approaching liquid democracy on the government scale. So at the foundation of a government is the individual. And in a Forby-style liquid democratic government, each citizen would have the right to vote on every aspect of the government that they're a member of. Of course, that would be impossible and totally overwhelming for anyone. So that's where the liquid part comes in. It means that each person can delegate their vote on any part of the governance process, from a single measure to a category of issues like economics or the environment or constitutional law. And individuals can delegate their vote to literally any other citizen or any other group on the platform. Now, imagine that you don't care or don't have time or don't like to think about governance, and you're talking with your Aunt Mabel, and she's really interested in it. She loves it. And as you talk, you realize you share a lot of opinions about how things should be handled. So Mabel is really committed to doing a good job of keeping up with the issues and also of delegating to people that she really trusts. And she's allowing other people to delegate their votes to her. So that evening, you log in, you go to the governance section of your nation or your state or your city or all of those. And with a few clicks, you delegate all of your votes on all of those subjects in all of those governments to Mabel. And now all of Mabel's votes count as 2 votes. And now you can see how she's voting on any subject. So whenever you look at the interface, the software shows you how she's using her vote if she approves your delegation. So this is important. It means that any representative must be willing to be 100% transparent about how they use their votes. And so it's easy for anyone who delegates to someone else to audit that person's voting record. So if you find out that there are a few areas where you would vote a little differently from Mabel, you can actually adjust those particular votes at any time. Or you could take back your vote on a big category like the environment or a small category like your local park. And you could give those votes on any particular subject to an entirely different person. So imagine you're watching YouTube and you hear somebody talking about some energy policy in your government and you like what they have to say a little better than how Mabel talks about that topic. So you go to the computer and you discover that this person is willing to accept delegated votes. So with a few clicks, you're now delegating all of your votes about energy policy to this person. So this would allow you to be as uninvolved or as finitely detailed as you like. Now, Forby would also allow you to delegate your vote to groups. And this is where things get really interesting and revolutionary. If you're enjoying the content, give the video a like, share it with your friends on Twitter or Facebook, and show the algorithm that this content is important to you.
We know why we created term limits, so that we wouldn't have forever monarchs. That's the thing we were trying to get away from, and that there would be checks and balances on power and that kind of thing. But that also has created a negative second order effect, which is nobody does long-term planning. Because somebody comes in who's got 4 years, they want reelected. They don't do anything that doesn't create a return within 4 years that will end up getting them reelected. And so the 30-year industrial development to build high-speed trains or the new kind of fusion energy or whatever it is just doesn't get invested in. And then if you have left versus right, where whatever someone does for 4 years, then the other guy gets in and undoes it for 4 years. And most of the energy goes into campaigning against each other. This system is just dissipating as heat, right? Like it's just burning up as heat. And the system that has no term limits and no internal friction in fighting because they got rid of those people can actually coordinate better. But I would argue it has its own fail states eventually and dystopic properties that are not the thing we want.
Okay, so stable bodies of experts. Now, the way Forby manages experts is unique. Imagine if you could poll everyone with a particular expertise and allow them as a group to vote on your behalf and allow them to make policy suggestions as a group. So in every group, there's going to be a few fringe people, but there is a saying, all of us together are smarter than any of us. And this means that fringe members tend to sort of cancel each other out on the ends, leaving you with a more reasonable and well-rounded average point of view. Now, these bodies would have strict policies about who can join, and there'd be an expertise verification process that would confirm or investigate all education and work experiences by individuals, and also make all conflicts of interest public. Of course, individuals in these groups are going to have their own opinions, but using Forby's sense-making and collaborative process to debate and integrate a wide range of concerns and values, they would be able to develop some really excellent solutions instead of leaving decisions to a single political appointee. And I'll leave a link to how that process works in Forby. So, for example, a body made up of all citizens with public health master's degree or higher. This group would be able to work together to craft proposals and well thought out opinions on topics related to their expertise, public health. Now, we do have something like stable bodies of experts, such as the employees of the National Institutes of Health or the CDC, but these organizations are headed by appointees, who typically do the will of their appointer, who is an elected official. So work done by one appointee can then be undone in the next term when there's left versus right politics. So by bypassing political appointments and having democratic bodies of experts, there's a dramatically improved ability to do long-term planning. So with stable bodies of experts, there are no term limits, and these groups can be able to make long-term planning recommendations. So if we extend this out to all fields of expertise, like climate scientists or economists or doctors, agricultural experts, cybersecurity experts, etc., because these stable bodies of experts are permanent parts of our society and they're not beholden to short-term political appointees, each of these democratically run groups would be able to craft proposals and do long-term planning recommendations. As well, they would be able to sort of craft well-thought-out opinions on topics related to their expertise. The delegation of power by individual citizens to these groups is completely voluntary and can be instantly withdrawn if these bodies were to somehow become corrupted or unreasonable in any way. So that makes this really meritocratic. Instead of having debates between party officials who are, if we're going to be honest, experts in really nothing except for politics and their own party line, the Democratic platform would host debates between the members who hold the most delegated votes on a given issue. And that would include, or could include, members within these expert groups, allowing members to decide if any group or candidate is indeed worthy of their trust. So in our example, people with public health degrees, they could decide amongst themselves what they see as the most important health risks facing the population and suggest policies to address these concerns directly to the people by making propositions. Now, because of the size and the qualification of the bodies, their proposals would likely receive more delegated votes and therefore have a higher likelihood of being able to break any kind of gridlock and address the challenges that society faces in a timely way. On top of all that, there's a well-documented phenomenon, we see it all the time, where experts are on the payroll of wealthy vested interests. And because of these revolving doors between industry and political offices, basically it means that politicians are making decisions in the interest of industry, knowing that they're going to get a cushy job in some corporate office later for their cooperation. And so when decisions are being made by a single appointee, This corruption is very easy for individuals and corporations to pull off. But because these stable bodies of experts would include hundreds or maybe thousands of experts, the possibility of the entire group being bribed is really a lot lower. So voters delegating their vote to stable bodies of experts would not only reduce government corruption and increase a government's responsiveness to emerging risks and the will of the people, it would also dramatically increase the level of education and experience addressing any given issue. A fluid democratic system like Forby would allow for better sense-making and choice-making, so these decisions would not be mired in a sea of politics and red tape. As the people become aware of an emerging risk, like AI or CRISPR gene-drive bioweapons or environmental collapse, a movement to manage this issue, initiated by collaborative efforts between experts and individuals alike, would quickly emerge. And with those experts in that area, they would quickly rise to the stage and discuss and propose options. And because there's no party politics in this scenario to spin the conversation, we would have an honest debate, and citizens would quickly decide how to handle this emerging risk. So I hope you're starting to see how a fluid democracy system could correct the major failings that we see in our world, and how Forby has developed some innovative and unique systems to make liquid democracy possible and easy to use.
The fundamental thing is we want a kind of order at various scales. We want that to be emergent rather than imposed. Can we apply digital technologies and exponential tech in general to try to increase the capacity to do that, where the technology called a town hall, the social tech that we'd all get together and talk, obviously is very scale limited. And it's also oriented to geography rather than networks of aligned interest. Can we build new, better versions of those types of things? Yeah, fundamentally, that's the thing that has to happen.
Of course, transitioning to a system like this would not have to happen directly, but it could happen as a process over time. As trust is built and there's a familiarity with liquid democracy, and as there's improvements in the technology and the security. And a gradual transition can be made as representatives become more committed to the principles of direct democracy. Of course, there's checks and balances in governments, and those would still be in place because this system really just replaces the most dysfunctional branch of government, which is the legislative branch. So Congress and Senate and the like. Now, at the scale of the world, issues get a little more complicated due to international legal issues. But someday, we may all have a vote in global decision-making. So until then, Forby could initiate the process of helping gather the best ideas and initiating the most important conversations regarding the things that affect all of us in the world. So as a side note, I would love to see this service be funded and run and maintained by governments for the management of their democracy. So it seems to me that it has to start from the ground up, in a grassroots kind of way, of, for, and by the people. So to get updates on the progress, you can sign up for our mailing list at forby.org. You can check out some other videos. I've done a similar process of distilling Daniel Smachtenberger's thinking around the topics like the use cases for liquid democracy, from personal to business to global, financial and ethical concerns regarding building a liquid democracy app. There's a video on how the proposition crafting process can include the needs and values of more than the usual 51%, it can include a lot of these values, and also how it might affect psychological and cultural issues. This technology could have some effect that way. So click on the links to find out more. Now, I hope this content inspires you to get involved in how we can live better together on the planet. Please voice your agreement or disagreement, share your own vision in the comments section, and I read all the comments. You can share this video with your friends on other platforms like Twitter or Facebook to continue this debate. And you can also support us on our Patreon page. I'll make sure to have some offers there. So we are going to be producing more videos and doing interviews on topics related to fluid democracy. So if you enjoyed the comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel or the group for more content like this. And thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.